There you go again.
How dare you?
I'm glad you had your day to show off. Sit down and shut up.
Listen, you're in my house. You don't start. You don't. No.
It should be a shame that I have to go out and buy things for my daughter's class because of a shortage of funds.
Thanks for coming.
Rick Scott has been dogged by hecklers for years, and now he's dealing with this.
You're in. You don't care about working people.
We'll show you what this run-in at Starbucks tells us about our governor and how he compares to other politicians and a certain character from Seinfeld.
Yes! That's what I should have said!
Plus, we'll look into the Stop Trump movement with Trump protesters, anti-violence activists caught up in violence.
I'm not looking for confrontation. I'm definitely looking forward to conversation, which is
What were you doing up on the stage?
We'll also investigate those complaints about Trump University.
I figured that a man with that much money wasn't in the business of scamming people.
And we'll continue our investigation of Florida Congressman Alan Grayson. And we have some interesting internal emails from his staff. This is Money, Power, and Politics.
Okay, so we have a lot of ground to cover tonight, and with the tax deadline just around the corner, we're also digging into problems at the Internal Revenue Service. And that's where we start, with the IRS begging Congress for money and frustrated taxpayers begging for help.
These were all handmade.
When you walk into Robert Fernandez's home,
Well, that's a nativity scene.
you see it's Christmas in April.
Yes.
But only because he's 87 years old and can't take it down by himself.
Putting the boxes back up, it would be too much. And wait for this summer when the boy gets out of school and he'll help me take it down.
But while the tree can wait, he needs help now with his taxes, and that's where he's stuck. He can fill out the forms on his own if he could just get the forms and the instruction booklet.
I'd like to pick up some forms and also some instruction booklets.
But as he learned the hard way, the IRS is no longer in the business of just handing out instructions, even at the IRS office.
They opened the door and the first thing that I was asked is, do you have an appointment? I said, no, I don't have an appointment. He says, well, you've got to get an appointment. I said, all I want is forms.
So they checked him out.
And they have you spread your arms, and spread your legs, and then they go with a wand up and down your body underneath your arms.
Then told him to check out the bookcase.
The shelves are bare. There's nothing there.
So the IRS Tampa office told him he'd have to call the IRS call center.
I just grabbed the phone and I said, I'm getting the hell out of here.
But the IRS call center told him they probably can't mail him forms in time.
Did I try the IRS? Yeah, I'm in the IRS.
So the IRS call center advised him to call the same IRS office that told him to call the call center to make an appointment to pick up some forms.
I'm still waiting for the forms.
Of course, you can get this online, but that does not help a lot of seniors like Robert.
Computers is out of my bailiwick.
We tried the IRS office 2 weeks later, found the spots for instruction booklets still empty, and got the same number for the call center. Which could mail us forms with instructions in a couple of weeks, but given the approaching deadline, sent us right back to the office.
And try to set an appointment there for the forms.
And after a few tries, a recording told us we'd have to go online and make some selections before we even requested an appointment.
It really is asinine.
Last year, the IRS admitted to providing bad service.
Customer service, both on the phone and in person, has been far worse than anyone would want.
The IRS blamed budget cuts, and taxpayers like this 87-year-old veteran are paying for it.
This is crazy.
And after 87 years and a Purple Heart in Korea, you could say he's already paid enough.
I've got a very, very bad taste in my mouth for the IRS. They're not there to help.
The IRS finally responded after 2 weeks of back and forth. He finally got his forms, thankfully, before Christmas.
Remember, the Internal Revenue Service once spent $25,000 on a happiness expert. And what does he say makes you happy?
One of the experiments I did was one called Helping the Elderly.
Problem is, the IRS has struggled to help taxpayers of all ages. So the IRS commissioner is pressing Congress for more money next year.
Is your mic on? Mic check.
I mean, you'd actually like to hear this.
We want accountability.
Well, Congress slashed funding at the IRS after the agency harassed mainly conservative activists and fueled the rise of the Tea Party. To those who say the tea bags look silly, you would say what?
They look silly.
The IRS also looked silly when it played Star Trek on company time.
Are you guys ready?
And blew money line dancing. Spent $17,000 just to watch a guy paint. Well, then watched a guy paint a picture of Bono.
Do what?
The IRS also raided its own hiring fund on travel and entertainment and spent nearly $50 million on conferences since 2010 and did not track attendance or document some expenses or get receipts.
In my private experience, you would have been fired on the spot. Excuse me.
And when Congress pressed the agency for emails for its investigation, the emails disappeared.
I did not say I would provide you emails that disappeared. If you have a magical way for me to do that, I'd be happy to know about it.
Congress was so mad it punished the IRS by cutting its funding. But when Congress targeted the IRS, we all took some collateral damage because the IRS is trying to serve customers and police fraud with a smaller staff. It frustrates law-abiding taxpayers and gives cheats a better chance of ripping us off.
The most recent IRS study of the tax gap, released in 2012, found that the tax gap was $385 billion.
The IRS did get a $290 million infusion in December, and that did help bring down wait times somewhat this year. But given its recent history of controversy and waste, congressional leaders are hard-pressed to give the IRS all the money that it says it needs, because polling has shown a majority of Americans say they are overtaxed, and faith in government is near an all-time low. It goes back to the IRS protest that took off 3 years ago.
So this IRS that you speak of, they're collectors of taxes?
And it goes back to the concerns first expressed by our founding fathers. Once again, Patrick Henry, take it away.
The government is not following the Constitution. Our supplications have been disregarded. Shall we gather strength by irresolution and inaction? Give me a break until the glorious object of our contest shall be obtained, armed in the holy cause of liberty. There is no retreat. We must fight.
But to those who say you don't have enough passion, you would say what? Coming up, Alan Grayson is under a congressional ethics investigation, and we have internal emails from his staff.
Alan Grayson is under congressional investigation. The Polk County congressman is facing questions over his finances, and we first discovered evidence that he misused his congressional office last year.
Well, I've changed the House.
While House ethics rules do not allow reps to use congressional resources for campaign activities, Grayson clearly did a campaign-related interview from his official House office.
And changed the Senate as well.
Grayson spokesman Ken Scudder said because of the hectic schedule, there was no alternative. He said Grayson did this interview in July through a campaign computer that was in his congressional office. Scudder said there was no attempt to misuse government resources, and back in July, he assured us that Congressman will not do any more interviews in his government office regarding his campaign for the U.S. Senate. But we discovered he did it again.
That's one reason to vote for me.
Grayson did this interview with host Nicole Sandler from House offices near the end of September. And in it, he repeatedly attacked his primary opponent in a Senate race, as these snippets from her YouTube channel will show.
He voted 6 times to force the president to license the Keystone Pipeline.
That's right.
As he's taking in almost $500,000 per quarter from these special interest PACs. What is his great legislative accomplishment? Nothing. What is his great legislative proposal? Nothing.
In case you're wondering how we know Grayson did this interview from government offices, listen to what Grayson says near the end.
That buzzing that you heard in the background a couple of minutes ago was the notice that votes have started.
Oh, no. Okay.
Yes, so votes have started here in the House. I have to go do that part of this job.
Grayson's spokesman sent us a response noting this was intended to be a non-campaign interview and was for the most part. He stated the host did ask a couple of campaign questions, which is allowed under House rules. And now we can take you behind the scenes to show you what Team Grayson was thinking and doing as we dug into this, because we now have several of their internal emails. Our investigative reporter, Tina Jensen, first asked if Grayson did a campaign interview from his House office and if his hedge fund dealings were a conflict of interest.
Last year, his House spokesman and campaign spokesman at the time go back and forth on this. Then his spokesman writes that he's 90% sure there was no ethics violation, leaving open the possibility, a 10% chance that his boss and our congressman has an ethics problem. As it relates to campaign interviews in the House office, his campaign spokesman wrote, "They," referring to us, "probably can't even confirm that it's his House office in the shot unless we confirm it for them. Did you look back at the video to see if there's anything besides the flags visible? There are other ways to handle this that leave us less exposed. And can we just not respond? She won't have anything to report if we don't. And I want to slow walk this since it will be Friday afternoon soon." And when his office spokesman disagreed and worked up the statement for us, the campaign spokesman wrote, "Jesus, he's going to admit that we broke the rules." Well, Grayson himself has denied any wrongdoing. The House Ethics Committee is continuing its investigation. We have the full report from the Office of Congressional Ethics and the full response from Congressman Grayson on our Facebook page. That's Fox 13's Craig Patrick on Facebook. You'll find the links near the top of the page. Also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's Craig Patrick's Money, Power, and Politics. You'll find more investigations, interviews, and prior shows you may have missed. Coming up, we'll investigate those claims about Trump University ripping off its students. And we'll examine the anti-Trump movement with a protester who stormed the stage in Chicago. Plus, we'll take a closer look at Governor Rick Scott's trouble at Starbucks and why it's viral gold. Well, the anti-Trump protests really took off last month, especially with the clashes in Chicago. So Charlie LeDuff found the man who ran Trump out of town.
So I'm watching the Trump rally in Chicago spin into chaos, and then I see this guy. Wait a minute, I know this guy. Jedediah Brown, a Chicago anti-violence activist in the middle of violence. Jedediah, what were you doing?
Man, that's not going down in Chicago.
Yeah, but people got a right to speak and be heard.
What do you mean? I utilize my freedom of speech.
Yeah, but even the people you disagree with got a right to be heard and to hear.
Well, if you paid attention, Trump's the one who cowered out. We did not stop it. He postponed it before we even got to say a word.
Yeah, but that was rowdy.
So look, here's the
You got to admit that he was right to cancel that.
Oh, not at all. Trump has had environments where he has instructed people to leave out of rallies, said he wished he could smack individuals, said he would pay for the legal fees of anybody who attacked it. This is clearly the environment he wanted to create. He can handle it, right?
That might be so, but didn't you create the equal and opposite action?
Not at all. And again, so here's the scoop, and here's how it goes. I went to that rally trying to figure out, could America withstand or stomach a hateful campaign? Donald Trump being able to run a successful campaign in America in 2016 should be alarming to everybody. So I wanted to see, is this real or is this just what the media portrays? And man, before I even got in the building, I was met with racism, ignorance, bigotry, and a lot of hate, standing in line trying to even get in the door. And when I got inside, it was no different. I'm not looking for confrontation. I'm definitely looking forward to conversation, which is why.
What were you doing up on the stage? I mean, I acted less crazy than that in a bar and got beat down.
I was not angry. I was passionate. It's what America's all about. I was able to go on stage and put out a message of hope and of peace, but I was in a hostile environment, so don't misunderstand my face.
Wait, let's cut away to the tape for a second. Peace? That didn't look like peace.
You said it doesn't look like peace, but you can't judge a book by its cover. If you read my lips, I clearly am saying America is already great without hate. I was in a hostile environment, so my body language was aware of it.
Is there a way Trump could welcome people into his tent?
I challenge Donald Trump that if you really want to be the president that unites now, I'm on stage shutting down your rally. If you really want us to be united, I'm ready to have a conversation with you, because I need to know, are you the hateful, bigoted individual, the ignorant individual I'm seeing? And you need to know, am I the hateful individual you are trying to make, or the thug you're trying to make me out? Because this is about America at the end of the day, and I want us all to be able to thrive together.
Ball's in your court, Donald.
This week, Ted Cruz ripped into Trump over his shuttered Trump University. Students claim they were ripped off there. So tonight, We're taking a closer look at their claims with Phil Schuman.
Donald Trump may plan to make America great again, but one woman we spoke with just wants him to make her whole again. She wants a refund for a Trump University seminar she paid for but never attended.
I would not have given my credit card or made that purchase if Donald Trump's image and name weren't associated with the company. I figured that a man with that much money wasn't in the business of scamming people, and that's what this company did.
This woman, who fears retaliation by the Trump organization, so asked us not to identify her, says she paid almost $2,000 to an entity called Trump Institute for Leadership and Business Skills Training. Years later, she's still waiting for her money back.
So it was one thing after another. I contacted Trump University directly, and they told me that they weren't affiliated with the Trump Institute, even though on the material it said Trump University, Trump Institute. So it was one lie after another.
Trump University ceased operations 6 years ago after what started as online courses and morphed into live hotel-based events at which participants say they were urged to sign up for a $35,000 mentorship program. Thousands of former students have filed complaints. There are class action lawsuits. Criticism of the failed business dogged Trump on the campaign trail. Challenger Marco Rubio, before he dropped out, tried to make it an issue.
When they finally realized what a scam it was, they asked for their money back, and you refused to give them their money back. Why don't you tonight?
Trump recently posted this YouTube video about the university, dismissing the complaints, calling it all a minor civil matter that could have been settled easily.
There's been so much talk by dishonest people about Trump University.
But this woman isn't buying anything Trump says, just wants her $2,000 back, believes the way he's reacted to the complaints shows his true colors.
Knowing that he put his name and image to a company that handled themselves in this unethical manner makes me not trust him. I mean, he's saying, trust me, I'll be a great president. I don't believe that. I believe that Donald Trump is in for the buck. He will steal money from anybody and everybody.
Donald Trump has said the Trump University dispute will play out in court, and he said that he will win the lawsuit. Trump has described this as a, quote, very nice thing that he's putting on hold until the case plays out. Coming up in Trail Tales, we'll follow Governor Rick Scott on his awkward trip to the coffee shop.
You don't care about working people. You should be ashamed to show your face around here.
We'll show you how politicians deal with hecklers and what it reveals about them.
It's time now for Trail Tales.
It's not time to make the donuts, it's time to make the jobs.
When Governor Rick Scott's under pressure, he doesn't blink. Literally. When he faces a tough crowd or question, he does not blink. He freezes and often struggles with a comeback.
It should be a shame that I have to go out and buy things for my daughter's class because of a shortage of funds.
Thanks for coming.
He's been booed at sporting events. And ridiculed by the international media for greeting a king racked in scandal for shooting an elephant by asking about the elephant.
I've ridden elephants. I've never tried to shoot one.
So would you be willing to pee into this cup to prove to Florida taxpayers that you're not on drugs?
In other words, when Scott faces hecklers, it tends to play out like this. Which brings us to the woman ripping Scott at Starbucks.
You're an You don't care about working people.
She was disrespectful, and to his credit, Scott kept his cool. But could you imagine what would happen if she said that to Chris Christie?
I'm glad you had your day to show off, but we're the ones who are here to actually do the work.
It's people who raise their voices and yell and scream like you that are dividing this country. We're here to bring this country together, not to divide it.
A lot of successful politicians in both parties give as good as they get.
No. Hey. Yeah, listen, you're in my house.
But Rick Scott is a little different.
Governor, don't forget your pink slip. Okay. I'll take that.
When he's confronted, he does not think well on his feet, whether he's facing taunts from hecklers or just questions from the media.
This is kind of awkward, but can you answer the question, or should we
Scoot.
And at Starbucks, he just scooted out the door without even getting his coffee as the heckler gave him what for.
Shame on you, Rick Scott. We depend on those services. Rich people like you don't know what to do. When poor people like us need health services, you cut them. Shame on you, Rick Scott.
Scott's press office did send out a strong comeback after the fact, which sort of makes Scott look like George from Seinfeld, always late with his comebacks.
Oh, yes! That's what I should have said!
Scott was probably in a no-win situation in that coffee shop, so he gets points for again keeping his cool and moving on. But since politics isn't beanbag, and voters often judge politicians on how well they defend themselves under fire...
There you go again.
Shame on you, Barack Obama.
How dare you? How dare you?
Oh, shut up.
Scott could have at least said something more on his way out the door.
Sweet. All right, that's a wrap. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.